working?
Yeah,
Are we on?
We're on.
Okay, we're on Facebook Live. Hi, everyone.
Hi, welcome back. We're glad you're here with us today. Joe and me and Tim, who's our cameraman, we're making for you today chicken fajita stir fry. It's a really fast, easy, delicious dinner. We're going to tell you a couple different ways you can do it. This is in conjunction with Hillcrest Y and our active older adult cooking classes, which have now become virtual cooking classes.
And not just for active older adults.
No, for anybody, especially for people who are busy, because we're not going to have you cooking for 2 hours. We're going to have dinner on that table pretty fast for you. And we're going to try and keep it pretty healthy, though we may do some treats here and there.
We may sneak in something a little unhealthy.
But actually, this is one of those meals that's healthy, but you don't even think of it that way.
Yeah.
Because we got vegetables, we've got chicken, but we've got a lot of flavor.
I was going to say, this is one of those meals that has a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
Last time we did the bread salad, and that has a burst of flavor. This flavor kind of seeps into all the food, and you just enjoy it, and you can savor it.
And it starts with a spice mix, and that's where the flavor's coming from in this. It's not a marinade, it's a spice mix. I make it up and I keep it in big jars because I use it a lot.
I'm going to show you a little bit of what this is, what Pat describes. Tim, you want to come in and get a little bit of, you can see some of those great spices in there, all the different flavors in that. Pat, why don't you tell them what's in there?
There's cumin, salt and pepper, chili powder, paprika, oregano, garlic, and onion. And cumin is one of those things that just brings Mexican and southwestern food alive. It's got a smoky, lemony taste to it. Wonderful spice. But the nice thing is, dry spices like this, you can mix this up and have it for quite a while. They don't
keep
really
it sealed in an airtight
keep
container.
it sealed. And what we're going to do is take half of this. The recipe is all going to be on Facebook in about 15 minutes, so check for that. But we're going to take about half of this, and we're going to cut our chicken and let it sit with the spices.
Now, I'm not using gloves with chicken. I will wash my hands. What you'll notice is, we usually have our wooden cutting board. And this is where Pat and I do most of our cutting and our chopping and all that. When we're cooking with chicken or with any kind of a protein, you want something to protect that wooden board from cross-contamination. I like these silicone cutting boards. They're great. They clean up real easy, and they also keep your cutting board clean and not having anything kind of leach into it.
They also let you pick the stuff up and go like that,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is a
that's
big
true
plus.
too.
And this is a nice one. I can see it has a non-stick surface on it, so it doesn't slide.
And if you notice behind me, there's a bunch of different colors. I use them for I try to use them all for what they're supposed to be. I use yellow for chicken, I use blue for fish, green for vegetables, and red for meat. Okay,
So
you ready?
we're going to cut the chicken up into strips, about 1 inch by 3-4 inches. I like to cut sort of on the diagonal just to break the fibers a little.
Like this?
Yes.
Now, if you notice how the fibers are going, they kind of go straight. And what we'll do is we'll cut this, cut a little bit on the bias.
Perfect. Oh, those are perfect. This spice blend mix actually comes from Viking. It was part of our knife skills class, which was our most popular class. We used to cut up all kinds of stuff. We would start with whole chickens and wind up with more chicken and vegetables than you can imagine. We would make this stir fry. But the spice blend is incredible. And I'm going to put this, as you cut it, right into the spice blend. So let's talk a minute about dry spices.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
If you notice, this breast is very thick. What I'm going to do is slice it in half.
And we'll also take those tendons and things
Yes,
out.
we'll take those tendons out.
Now, that's not wasteful to do. You can always put it in a bag in your freezer and use it for your stocks or something like that, but we really don't want to be chewing around that. So you can see what Joe is taking off there. That just gets a little tough and not necessarily so beautiful. So spices, the difference between herbs and spices. You want to take a guess?
Me? Between herbs and spices? Okay, herbs are
I'm putting on the
plants
spot.
and grow, you use the leaves. Spices, you use the seeds or the root.
Basically, you got it. Herbs are soft stems or leaves.
Okay.
And spices could be bark or seeds or, like you say, roots or something. So you could have a plant that has both. So cilantro, for instance, the leaves are cilantro, the seeds are coriander. It just depends what you're using. And unlike soft herbs, especially fresh ones, which don't last that long, this lasts a pretty long time, depending on who you listen to. The FDA says dried herbs, dried spices will last about 2 years. I've read food magazines where gourmets say change it every 6 months. But the people who grow and harvest the spices say about once a year, because otherwise you're buying the same ones over and over. It's harvested once a year. So I was in a doctor's office once with my mother. You know how they have very old magazines?
Yeah.
There was a picture of a spice jar. I'm sure you've seen it, the little metal jars. And it said, do you have one of these in your kitchen? Well, that's all my mom had in her kitchen. And then the next page said, we haven't made them in 15 years. Time to get rid of them. So
I like that.
Yeah, if you have any of the little metal jars, for sure get rid of it. If you buy jar, I use a lot of this, so it's a big jar. If you only use a little, buy what you're going to use. If you're not certain, write the date right on it.
Yeah, I mean, write the date on it, or if you're like I do, once a year I go through my spices, and whatever I haven't touched in the last 6 months I throw away.
Yeah.
And I know that's wasteful, but
Well,
it's not fresh.
But you could go a year.
Yeah.
Because
I'm gonna get the pan on, and I'll explain why in a minute.
Okay, and I'm just mixing that spice mix with this chicken. This part could actually be done ahead. You could have this in the refrigerator ready to go. No problem with that. We're also I'm gonna move this one then.
I was just gonna do that. And may I have that
Yes.
knife, and I will clean both.
And see how, so now we have a non-contaminated board because Joe had the sense to put that out. And we're gonna slice up some peppers. And we're gonna slice up, I have in the recipe a half of each. It depends how big your peppers are. These are slightly smaller, so I'm gonna use the whole thing. Plus, I really don't mind having a lot of vegetables in the fajita. And by the way, if you're vegetarian, this could certainly be without the chicken, everything we're doing.
And as we discussed when we were talking the other day, you can put shrimp, you can put beef, you can even put pork.
And just a few weeks ago, Tom and I actually made some fajitas with skirt steak that we had cooked the day before, cut it up, made the spice mix, and I grilled it, and it was delicious. So it's a very, very easy thing to do. This recipe also, we're going to put it on the tortilla, and we're going to show you how to warm your tortillas and soften them. But you could also stir it over rice. We could lemon lime rice would be good. Depends on what you like. If you're not eating gluten, I'm eating gluten.
So do I.
So, but rice is good, particularly a lime cilantro rice. We're going to make a little crema to throw on top, which is incredibly easy. Joe has his pan heating. Tell us why, Joe.
Well, we're using a cast iron pan today. I love cast iron. My grandmother taught me how to use cast iron when I was a young boy. And the great thing about it is cast iron is durable. The heat, it evenly heats the pan because it's all one piece and it's cast iron. And so what I like about it is I like to get it real hot first before I start cooking, especially when I'm going to be browning like vegetables or chicken. Get it hot, pour, what, about 2 tablespoons of oil?
Basically what'll coat the bottom.
We're just using regular canola oil. Why use the good olive oil when you're stir frying? It's not really necessary. Pat and I were talking before. I also like to use avocado oil. That has a higher burning point, smoke point. So it also doesn't, it's a neutral flavor. It doesn't add any flavor to it.
And grapeseed and peanut oil is frequently used in stir frying. The olive oil has a slightly lower smoke point, but beyond that, you're paying for the taste of the olive oil, and you're not going to taste it. So
Exactly.
if you, for health reasons, really want to use olive oil, use your cheapest one. Don't get the $40 flavored one and throw it in here because that's sort of a waste. Okay. So we're going to take our chicken.
Oh, I'm sorry, I already
Oh, you got that's great.
Okay, so the oil is hot. You can see it's kind of like bubbling and sizzling
You
a
can
little
hear
bit.
that sizzle.
Yeah.
And as we put this in, we'll probably hear a little sizzle too. Oh yeah, that's the sound.
That's the sound we want, huh?
That's the sound we want.
I have it on a medium-high heat. Again, you don't want it on too high of a heat because you don't want to burn anything. You don't want it on too low of a heat because you want to get a good sear. So what I do is I turn the heat up to a medium-high, as you can see, to get that sear going and to get the stir fry. Let it sit for a little bit, and then just keep moving it around. Keep moving the chicken around so it gets cooked on all sides. Chicken is such an easy protein to cook because you can actually see when it's done. It turns white. It makes it a lot easier to notice that it's cooked.
Gives you a clue that's what's happening there.
And unfortunately, we don't have smell-o-vision. Tim, can you smell those spices? Mm-hmm. The spices, they just kind of hit you right in the face, and I love the smell of it.
And we're going to do something with the rest of these spices to make it even more fragrant. I'm just cutting the onion there while you're doing that.
Why don't you show them how Pat's cutting that onion up, T?
So what we're doing is what we talked about last time. We want all of our slices to be pretty even. And if I just went like this, you'd have one this big and one this big. So just like with a pumpkin, there's striations in this onion, and we're going to follow those from the outside into the center. If we want it to be mathematical, we'd say we're following the radius.
Now see, that's new. I've learned something now. Tim just made a face. I think he just learned something today too.
But
you can say yes or no out loud.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
good.
you see how these are all now exactly the same length, which one makes it nice for the fajita, but it also means they're all going to cook the same. You don't have little pieces that are this big and going to be done in a minute, and ones this big that are going to take a little longer.
Do we have anybody watching or questions yet?
No questions. We got 2 people watching so far.
2 people. Wonderful. I bet one's your grandmother.
One is actually not. No.
Oh, okay.
We get a lot of people watching it in replay, which is nice. It's on Facebook. You can watch it. So as Joe said, we can see that the pink is going away. And as the pinks, we don't have to completely cook it right now because it will continue. Joe's going to push it to the outside of the pan.
Now, why do we do this? Well, the center of the pan, if you notice the flame on this, we have a double burner, double burner ring.
Right.
The center of the pan will stay high, and the outside of the pan is going to be a little lower. So what we do is we move the chicken to the outside of the pan. It'll cook a little slower.
And we'll be able to take the heat and use it for the rest of the fajitas and then stir together.
Okay.
Now we're going to do something that is like magic with spices. We're going to put the spices right into the oil to saute. And what's going to happen is they're going to bloom. The flavor, the scent is all going to open up in that oil. This is a great tip anytime you are using a dry spice. Even if your chili says add it at the end or what, add it
Always.
before the liquid and you will get so much more flavor out of it.
And I said smell-o-vision. You should smell this now.
It's amazing.
It's powerful, and it's great.
And we're only going to do a minute or 2 just to let that bloom, and then we will dump in the rest of our vegetables. We may have more than we need, but we'll...
You want to only do half of them right
yeah,
now?
I think that would be a good idea. Oh my gosh, that smells so
I know.
Isn't that a great mix?
I love this smell.
So we'll start
Oh, I'm
putting...
sorry.
We'll put
Did I
our
just hit
onions...
you?
No. Onions, and we'll put some peppers in. This, as you can see, is going to be something that you could easily multiply or do less of depending on what you want.
I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit for the center.
Because we want the vegetables to get soft, still retain their shape, but maybe get even a little tiny bit of a char on them. And if we need to add a splash of oil, Joe, that's perfectly
Do you
fine.
think we should?
Yeah, maybe, because we do have a lot of veg there. You know, look at how much, the interesting thing is when you're cooking, you always have to sort of adapt, because there is no one red pepper that is going to be the same size as every other red pepper. These are real things, not jarred stuff. So If your peppers and onions are a little bigger or a little smaller, you may adapt to one way or the other. Oh,
Now
that
we're just
smells
gonna let-
so good.
We're just gonna let this cook for a few minutes.
And by not moving it now, Joe's gonna get a little bit of a char on it, which char isn't burnt, but it's just below burnt, and it gives you that sort of black edge that adds so much flavor and such smokiness. As a guy who does smoking, you know what that adds to a dish.
Oh yeah.
The one thing when you're using cast iron pans, everyone, the whole pan gets hot, including the handle. So you don't want to be grabbing the handle. There's a lot of different things that you can use for the handle. They either have ones made of cloth that are quilted, or the silicone ones. I like the silicone ones because it kind of grabs it a little bit better, and you can push it on. And what's nice is then now I can hold on to the pan when I'm stirring. I'm not going to stir though for a few minutes.
And that's such a good idea also when you put the pan in the oven, because
Well, that's the other thing.
people grab it.
With cast iron pans, you can start it on the stove and finish it in the oven. A lot of times in the winter when I'm going to do a steak or something, I can put the steak,
Right.
char it, sizzle it on the side, seal it, and then stick it in the oven and finish it for a few
Bring it
minutes.
to the temperature you want
Yeah.
without getting it too crusty.
Yes.
And that's where you really want that little pot holder, so that, because your tendency is to grab that handle. I've
How
done
many,
it.
how many times have we burned our hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is looking good and it's smelling delicious.
Just going to push things down a little bit. What do you think, Pat?
I think it's getting there. We'll let the heat char a minute. Why don't we make the crema really fast?
Okay.
Crema is it's a little sauce that we're going to put on the fajita because it just makes it extra delicious. And it's extra easy. You can add as many things as you want. Basically, this is just sour cream.
My favorite.
Full fat or low fat, don't buy the no fat. The no fat is like, I don't know what it's made out of, but it's
Yeah,
not.
but it's not real cream.
And you don't need to put the zest in, but I always say if you got,
Why do you put zest in?
it has more, can you smell it already?
Yeah.
It has more flavor in the oils and the zest than in the whole rest of the lime. So, and I always say it comes free with the lime, or,
And use it. I mean, I think
Use
it's
it.
great.
but I can just smell it already. And then what we're gonna do is simply thin it out with some lime juice.
Show them your handy dandy little lime squeezer.
This is one of my favorite things. And we'll put half in and we'll stir and we'll see if it's thin enough for us, because just like other things, limes have a certain extra amount of juice. And get
Got
a
the
little
smell.
sloppy though, huh?
Well, spoons make things slop out.
We want it to be able to drizzle, so I'm going to put a little more lime in it. Thank you, Joe. I'm going to put a little more lime because what we want is to be able to drizzle that on the fajita.
Sounds good.
So you can see how easy this is. And I can hear that wonderful sizzling, which
You know,
means it's doing
I
beautifully.
think a couple more minutes and I'll go stir.
Remember, if you were in a Mexican restaurant, it'd probably come on a sizzling cast iron
Yeah.
platter, right?
What was it? What was Chi-Chi's?
Chi-Chi's.
Chi-Chi's restaurant. Those were in the day, in the 70s and
Yeah.
late 80s, or early 80s. Those were the big thing.
See how we can sort of drizzle it?
Yeah.
That's what we want. We don't want it wet, but we want it to be able to be just a little sauce, not a glob of sour cream. So we'll have that ready for our.
And one other thing that we didn't bring out or talk about that you can use on fajitas too is guacamole.
Guacamole, you can put just plain avocado, lettuce, cheese, whatever you like. This is where you create what your family likes.
Have you ever seen these?
There you go. No, but
You
that's
can
a
get
great
these
idea.
at Costco, ladies and gentlemen. They are guacamole in just a single serving pack.
Nice.
I love avocado toast in the morning. It's healthy,
That's so
it
good
fills
for
me
you.
up, and I'm very satisfied. So we can also, I
We
love
can do
guac
that.
on everything.
And some people put cheese, and some people put lettuce, whatever you like.
There you
So
go.
we're getting that little browning, and that's gonna make. And at this point, you can start stirring. Oh, look at the browning on the chicken too. See how we're the spices? Oh my gosh, that looks beautiful. My husband tells me I'm like a comic who writes his own jokes, but
Yeah.
I get really excited.
I get excited when food looks good.
That is beautiful.
And Tim can tell you, when we'll be sitting at Sunday dinner, I will comment, wow, this is really good.
I love
Because I do all the cooking.
You made it, right?
I made it, and that's something,
Hey,
if they're not going to tell me, I'm going to tell them.
and if you don't like it, what's the point, you know?
Now I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, just so we can keep things moving without burning.
But we're
It's
getting
doing-
that
it's-
browning.
oh,
it looks
It looks
beautiful.
absolutely
And
gorgeous.
I do wish you could smell it because
Take a good look at that pan.
doesn't that look good? And frankly, again, we're making this because it's delicious, but that's a really healthy punch for you. Now, if you didn't want to use rice or tortillas, it's certainly edible like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
If you want the rice, like I said, the lime cilantro rice is really good with this. We're going to put it on the flour tortilla. You could use corn if you like.
Okay.
There's a couple
I like the flour the best.
I do
to be honest
too.
with you.
Now, there's a couple ways. I mean, it's certainly edible as it is, but there's a couple ways you can make it, soften it up, and make it even a little better. One way is we could take it, wrap the stack in some foil with just a fleck of water on it, put it in the oven for about 10 minutes, and it'll steam and be soft and delicious. The other way is to wrap it in maybe a paper towel that's been dampened a little, put it in your microwave for, how long do you put it in, Joe? 2-3 minutes?
Not even.
Softens
Depends
up
on the
a bit.
microwave, really.
If they also have these crazy things where you can actually put the tortilla in, put it in the microwave, and it steams it in there. Third way is if you like it, or the fourth way, I guess, is if you like it crispy, you could get your another cast iron pan, just put it in a dry skillet for a few minutes. We're going to do something very authentic, and I understand this is how they do it in the fire department, so it means it's got a lot of credibility
Yeah,
to it.
and it's fireman.
I'll let you turn your stove on. You do need a gas stove for this. By the way, this could go on a grill too if you have a grill pan.
I don't know how hot you want it.
And we're just going to lay it down. It's going to get a char. It's going to bubble a little.
Starting to burn already.
Yeah. It really goes pretty quickly. Softens up. See the char on it? Sometimes they'll puff up a little.
Here, it's starting to puff up already. You can see a little puffing coming up
Yeah.
over here.
And this is a very authentic way to do it. Also very easy if you have a look at that. That's exactly what we're looking for. What is this taking about? You have to watch it, but what is it?
Seconds.
Second. And that's probably just perfect. All ready to fill.
I
Do you
think
think
this
we're
is
ready
about
to
done.
fill? Let me get you a plate and we'll fill this.
Turn the heat off. Okay, we'll do it this way.
With the tongs. I'm just gonna lay it sort of right down the middle. Oh my gosh, that looks so good with the charred tortilla, puffed and
Put
soft.
some red and a piece of chicken in the middle there.
That looks great.
How's that look?
That looks good to me. And then we're gonna put some of our crema on. Have a little salsa here. We did not make this salt. See how we're gonna just drizzle it over? Get just a little flavoring. I could have even thinned this more, I think.
Looks
But
good
it
to
just
me.
adds that nice flavor. Just a tiny bit of salsa. We don't want it to taste of salsa. We want to taste. Did you want your guac on, or you?
Oh no,
want
I think we'll try it first this
Okay.
way.
Let's see if he can do it. I know I can't without making a mess.
This is where it becomes the Guy Ferrari, trying to eat something without making a mess.
And to be honest, I frequently use a knife and fork because I know I'll make a mess.
Mm.
I guess he likes it. Isn't that delicious?
First of all, the spices pop in your mouth.
They really do.
Sour cream with the lime, that citrus smell enhances
Just brings it
everything.
out.
Brings everything out.
It's amazing. And you could serve this with wedges of lime too, but that's another thing. I don't put the lettuce and stuff on because I think it's so good like this,
No.
but you could.
This is a true fajita.
This-
Lettuce and cheese, you make a taco.
Yeah, that's the cheese version.
Yeah, I like it just like this.
And let's see, how long did this take, Miss Joe?
Just about 20 minutes.
And the only thing we did
From start to finish?
the only thing we did ahead of time was make the spice mix, which literally took about 5 minutes to spoon the different spices in. So dinner's ready.
Dinner's ready. And that's another episode of Cooking with Pat and Joe. Thank you
Come
guys
back
so
next
much.
time. You'll
We
find
enjoy-
the recipe online. So hope you check in. Thank you, Tim.
Tim, thanks again.
Bye.
We'll talk to you guys soon.